Noticing the body, noticing the breath. Noticing the inside of the body, deep in the tissues. Noticing the peripherals of the body, very edges of the body. Noticing the space just around the body. So having noticed the body on different levels, allow the quality and the sense of space to creep in, so to speak, creep into the body. Allowing space in the body. Of course, we often talk about specifically joints, opening the joints, expanding the joint. And you can do that. And you can just also just in general, allowing more space inside the body, whether it's if you're going specifically to the joints or not. Just the quality of the essence of space. Concept of space, a feeling of space, allowing that to be in the body. And noticing what that does, what that creates, what happens. So again, as often as the case, we'll do two things at once. Yin yang pairing, and it's very similar to what we've worked on many times, but a slightly different phrasing, perhaps. Being aware of space in our body. Lots of space in our body now. In fact, you can even come to this idea, feeling that the body is mainly just empty space. A void. An open void in the body, very, very, very spacious. And at the same time, as you have this quality and feeling and sense and allowing of space and spaciousness in the body, at the same time, allow gravity or hangingness to occur. Two aspects, two qualities, simultaneous. Now your mind can jump from one to the other, but eventually they can meld together. Open, open, open. Openness, spaciousness is the interior of the body. The interior quality, reality of the body is open and spacious. And there's also this subtle hangingness. Can you allow your breath, the breath itself, to be both open, spacious, very free and open, but also a weightedness to it, or a settledness to it, or a centeredness to it? Breath itself, both open and free and empty, spacious, but also settled or centered. And notice and enjoy those qualities merging and mixing. Let's bring this even to mind. Noticing and relating to your mind as being very open, very spacious. Open and clear like the sky. The mind free, right? The mind is infinite. So now, first relating to that clear, open spaciousness of mind, but also become aware of or allow quality, a sense of a weightedness. So in other words, not just a empty clarity that's floating, like a big balloon, infinitely big balloon, helium balloon. It is that big, that empty, that open, but also it has a sense of settledness. And notice how that feels, have that mingling of qualities as mind. A mind that's clear, empty, open, spacious. But not wandering and not flighty or floaty. Completely empty, completely open, space for all things. Not empty in the sense there's nothing in it. Be thoughts in there, but it's so empty, it has room for everything. All thoughts, all feelings, all things in the world. So it's not empty as an empty void, as in sterile. And that takes too much stress and tension to try to get rid of thoughts. No, it's so empty and so vast and so spacious. Everything is in it. All possible thoughts, all possible feelings, all possible things. But it's so big and empty. Even though everything's in it, it's completely empty. In other words, all those things, including thoughts, are so minuscule compared to its vast openness. It equates to basically totally open and empty. And there's an anchoredness to it. Bring that back to the breath. Same two qualities back to the breath. Open, free, spacious. In fact, your belly and your breath just gets a little bit more open each time. But it's also settled. And then to the body itself again. Empty and spacious, just like the mind was or is. Allow the body to become more like that mind. Allow the body to become more like the quality of the mind we just did. Empty, open. But there's a hangingness or a settledness within it. Within that emptiness, there's also gravity working. And we can link those more and more, those two qualities. The more you can allow hanging, the more you can allow and intend sinking and hanging. Link that so that triggers more and more empty openness in the body. They start to feed each other. Sometimes focusing with the mind more on that hanging, subtle quality, dripping quality, and then link that to triggers and even more emptying and opening. And bring that to the breath as well. in a very light kind of way, moving into commencement movement. And you may or may not do a full movement of the commencement, but approaching that movement of commencement, reminding yourself over and over again of being both empty, light, spacious, empty, emptying. At the same time, this hanging quality, consistent, continuous settling, consistent settling, this hanging quality, but also an emptying, opening quality as you go into movement. So it's almost as if your body and its movement is becoming transparent, like a cloud or a dream. It's not just complete emptiness, openness, a complete void. There is something hanging. There's something settled there, something that's hanging out, but just enough so that you're just not pure empty space or void. So it's almost like there's a moving transparency. Bring that to the breath once in a while. The breath is very free, very open, free to move, almost infinite in its movement, pulsing in and out. But there's a place where it's settled. And then bring that to the body. Extremely open, vastly open and empty. And in the midst of that is this hanging quality. Allow the breath to only increase those qualities in the body. Now, what's very helpful, and this applies for whatever we might be doing, anything we're working on. Before you go into the so-called next commencement move, or whatever that move might be, before you go into the next move, watch, pay attention to how rote that tends to be, how much you tend to just do it, how much you tend to do the beginning of the next move. And you don't have to do that. Don't do the beginning of the next commencement. Don't do it. Be willing to wait. And then just do the qualities and sensations that we've been doing. So what's going to happen for sure, even if you're doing fairly well with and you're really enjoying sensations and experiences you're having, there's still going to be, to one degree or another, the starting of the next commencement or the starting of the next move or getting it going. Don't get it going. Just do the qualities and sensations. And those may get it going. Those may get your body going, may start the next commencement, but don't do the next commencement. Don't do it. Certainly don't do it physically. So don't be, I know you're not in a hurry to do the next commencement perhaps, but our mind thinks, well, now it's time for the next one. So let go of that. It's not time for the next one. You just continue. It's just time to continue doing the sensations and qualities that you're working with and experiencing. And then when it's time for the next commencement, well, then it's time, but you're not going to decide that. You're not going to be in any hurry to make the next commencement move. And once in a while, notice how it does change your body. How are the shoulders different? What does it do for the shoulders and other parts of the body, lower back, neck, so on. But watch when you creep into mechanically doing the move or the beginning of the next move. So notice that. and dissolve that. We don't need that. Also, don't be in a hurry of doing the second part of the move. Don't do the switch where you start coming down. Don't do that switch. Don't do the change in direction, or certainly don't be in a hurry. Don't do it rotely, intellectually, mechanically. So don't start intellectually and don't change direction back down. Don't do that intellectually. Don't do that. Huge part of it is what you don't do. There are certain things we are doing or intending for sure. We're focusing on, yes. But especially on a physical level, movement, physical level, it's mainly what you don't do. It's mainly not doing on the physical level, physical movement. So it's mainly not doing it. Mainly not doing it. So again, you become like an apparition. Remember back to that mind, vast and open like the sky. So vast and open, has room for everything and still to be empty. It's so vast, it holds everything, and it's so vast, it's still empty. Let that be your body. It becomes almost like an apparition, transparent. There's a little bit of hangingness there, so it's not totally an apparition. It's not totally a ghost. It's not a whiff in the sky like a cloud. There's that hangingness there. But there's still always growing emptiness and openness. Especially in the transitions. Don't do the beginning, don't do the transition, don't do the end. No beginning, no end, but there's also no transition. Just continuing with those qualities and those explorations. So take whatever you can of these sensations, qualities, feelings into riding horses me. Again, first thing is to watch out the doing that you start to do. Start it, then come back. You don't have to do that. Hang out, open, empty, empty, open, open, expand into emptiness. Oh yeah, there's some hanginess in there. Okay, so I've got an imagery coming up I want to share with you. It's helpful for me, or at least I relate to it. It comes out of what I'm doing. So whether it's valuable to you right now, it may or may not be. You know, when you have wet laundry hanging on the laundry line, clothesline in the backyard, and the clothes have just come out of the wash, so they're sopping wet. Our body is that sopping, wet, hanging clothing. But our mind and our feeling, our energy is the whole sky. So imagine like you're on a, you know, an environment where you have this huge open sky, like maybe on plains or desert, what have you, where just the sky is just so huge and obvious. That's you, you're that sky. That's your mind, that's your feeling, that's you. You are that vastly open sky, totally spacious, can't touch anything. But your body is that hanging, sopping, wet piece of clothing. So most of you is that entire space, openness. but there's this gentle, natural hangingness, as opposed to a attractiveness, tightness, separateness. No, natural hanging. Just that there's so much space and openness going on, you're not collapsed and falling on the floor like a wet garment, all squished. There's so much openness, so much emptiness, so much opening and emptying that there just isn't the possibility to contract or collapse, but it's still naturally abdomen as well. And if you're having a fair degree of success with the simple movement, we can go into a little bit more complex movement. Fresh knee. First thing I want to say is don't do the transitions, or at least don't be in a hurry to transition. Don't come back. So when you're back here, don't come forward. When you're forward, don't go back. Or at least don't be in a hurry to do that. Stopping, hanging out in a much larger field of openness and emptiness. Of course, the next level would be then footwork, doing room lengths of brush knee or parting horse's mane or cloud hands, and then of course doing the set. Any comments or questions? How's it feeling?
So it's really interesting, like with these two contrasting, the drippy laundry and the vast sky. It makes me realize how trapped I've been in the linearity of the movement and how it takes it out of the whole surround. Because to taste the difference, like some of the things that I've never quite resolved for myself, it's because I've been focused on some level of, well, now this is back and now this is forward, and there's like one possible A to B, as it were, and how different it feels to just like working with these qualities just takes the eraser and gets rid of that.
That is marvelous. That is marvelous. So yes, from A to B, and then that's being erased. That is marvelous.
And I didn't know that I had drawn a line. Like that's yeah.
And how much more free and open, not A to B, not being linear. So, and kind of maybe, it's kind of connected to what you're saying. One of the things, if I was to describe part of what it's doing for me is, and it is in line with what you're saying, is that I feel in particular the joints, certain joints, it's like being in outer space, and they're opening in every single vector, every direction. So very much related to what you're saying. And for whatever reason, there was a specific awareness of joints or certain joints. And so to kind of go with the theme that you're verbalizing, rather than opening in one vector or two vectors, one that way, one that way, linear, it was literally opening up. The only way that would happen, the only way that it happens that way is in outer space, right? We're creating that now, eventually. But in space, it's obvious it would happen in all directions. And so I was just noting that, wow, this maybe is exactly what being in outer space feels like, a weightless environment. It became very clear this was omnidirectional and opening, of course, very pleasant. So it's interesting that you mentioned that. Yes, you're not going, and in terms of just our movement, we're not going from A to B. We're doing this. There's the vast sky again, right? The dripping garment on the clothesline, that has a linear action. But we have two things going on, and more than one thing going on. But the main quality, the main reality is this larger dimension of opening, emptying, and that's empty sky or outer space. So it's very good when you start to have a sense of expansion or just all directions or not just one or two directions. So that's a very good experience that something is actually transmuting and evolving. So, and then once you have an experience like that, and it could be an experience that's different than that exactly, but once you start to tap into these experiences, oh, this is really interesting. Oh, this is changing. This is transmuting. This is really a different experience. Notice where you lose it. Am I contracting to come back? Am I going back to linear when I do this part? So once you've now noticed something, you can sort of, in a sense, track it. And then you notice when you lose it. And then you can get better and better at getting it back. And you get more and more continuous with these qualities, principles, because you get better and better noticing when you lose it. And then you're able to fill that space, fill that part of the movement with those same qualities and feelings. Which is a lot of concentration, a lot of inner work, internal work, and that's the path. That inside work, internal work. And so it's very arduous that way, in that sense, on that level. So it takes to start to, oh, that feels good. And then don't go totally on vacation with that. Oh, I'm just drifting. That's beautiful. That's nice. Where am I losing it? Takes a little extra focus, concerted focus to notice where that isn't happening as much. Enjoy it as much as possible. Really enjoy and soak it up. And then also, okay, where am I not doing that? Or where am I losing it? And then you get even more of that. Note how it just simply changes the shape of your form. Rather than brushing being like this, it changes the shape and the form, more round, more open typically. Let me know if there's any other questions or comments. Okay, let's try this. You ready for another thought experiment externalized? You ready for another, to be another spiritual guinea pig? So this is just another way of working with these qualities, working with a couple different aspects, a couple different qualities, and just another imagery. And if we kind of approach them from many different angles, it's just like why we use a lot of different phrases. We have a lot of times that we're working on are the same things over and over again, or very similar things over and over again, just using different phraseology, different exercises, drills to work the same few things over and over again. So we're attacking it from many, many, many different angles so that something will find its way in. Something will creep in and find a little crevice where it can sneak into our consciousness and into our body. So this is taking what we've been doing so far, but also a just slightly different way of working with it, imagining it, feeling it. We've talked about the dripping, wet, sopping wet garment, clothing, hanging on the clothes hanger. And to me, that's a good imagery because I think all of us knows that. We have an experience of that. And of course, then the emptiness, openness of the sky, vastness of the sky. Okay, now, it is your spine, your physical spine, that is the sopping wet garment. Hold long under its own weight. It's not rigid, it's sopping wet, it's soft and flexible, but it's heavy and pull longer and longer and longer as their spine. Our body itself, our physical body is that empty, open, vast sky. So there's nothing external. There's nothing outside our body. It's all it. The body is the total sky, the total universe. Empty. The spine itself is that sopping garment, hanging so heavy with gravity. So as you would know, so that garment is going to be stretched. I might even, when it's finally dried, put it back on. Oh, my sweater, it's down to here. It's cold. That's the spine. That wet, dripping garment is the spine itself. The rest of the body is that open clarity, vastness of the sky. And that spine, that hanging garment is, again, there's the tendency to think of the spine from out here. Remember that sopping garment is hanging from here. I mention that because there's a normal tendency for people to have a inner sense of the spine from just a part of the spine. And they maybe don't include the bottom part too, but definitely tend to forget about the cervical vertebrae. So have that sopping heavy garment pulled long by the drippingness, that from here. Background of the head. And everything else that is the body becomes empty, open, as empty as the sky itself, as open as the sky itself. There's always that hanging spine. So natural. It's just natural for water to drip through that garment. It's natural for water to just find the lowest place, drip down, flow down, completely natural. Heavy naturally. And the sky is naturally empty and open. The body itself is that naturally open and empty. And then we have this inner core. Hanging. Heavy, but completely naturally. So totally transposed on each other. And hanging, heavy, naturally heavy inner line, inner core, that is the spine. It's naturally open, getting more open, emptying the rest of the body. Both qualities. Allow one more and more, and then allow the other more and more. And have them work together or off of each other. Then maybe a little bit wider, and take that into, let's say, cloud hands. Quality and feeling is more important than cloud hands itself. So it is a hanging, sopping, wet piece of garment, and the open, clear sky that is your body that's happening, be doing this movement. So don't do the movement. Maybe you could think of this is simply a movement of wind through that vastly open sky. And so that hanging, sopping garment is being moved or turned a little bit by the wind. The body itself is that wind. So don't do the transitions. Just hang out and experience. The body itself is becoming emptier, more and more open, more and more free, more and more non-thing, more and more spacious. But the spine continues to have its nature of hangingness. hanging open. It opens under its own weight. That's what I meant by a garment would be pulled long and be stretched. The spine is opened longer and longer by its own hangingness. And the body's nature becomes more and more that of openness, opening, spacious. And allow that to make the movement. Not doing a movement and then trying to do these qualities, you're doing the qualities. And there might be some movement. Eventually, through those qualities, you can have those qualities generate movement. But if you jump there too soon, you end up just doing the movement and clamping down on the qualities and the changing qualities that change your body. Okay, how are we doing? Any comments or questions?